served in the Korean War for his service and sacrifice. A Sturgeon Bay native, Robert enlisted in the United States Air Force shortly after his 19th birthday on July 31st, 1956. A relatively new branch of the armed forces at the time. Robert joined the Air Force and was quickly sent off for training. He was initially sent to Parks Air Force Base in California for basic training before being assigned to, was it Keesler Air Force Base?
Keesler, Biloxi, Mississippi.
Biloxi, Mississippi. I was just in Mississippi last week visiting some shipyards. I didn't see Keesler, but then there were massive expansions in the early 1950s, which prepared Keesler Air Force Base to train many of the airmen who would eventually end up in Korea. Like Robert, Keesler housed many cutting-edge technologies for the time, including a ground support training program for intercontinental ballistic missiles, a semi-automatic ground environment system, an integrated defense network to protect the United States from Soviet air attacks, and training on these critical technologies prepared Robert for his deployment. And then on January 18th, 1957,
yep,
that sound right? Robert was deployed to Korea with the 314th Air Division, joining the Far East Air Force Command. The deployment of additional troops and airmen to Korea in the years immediately following the war played a key role in ensuring American support of South Korea, as well as deterring any further communist expansion from the north. On July 1st, 1957, just 6 months after Robert arrived on the peninsula, United States Forces Korea began its mission to support and defend the United Nations Command with the help of the United States military personnel like Robert. USFK's mission, then as now, because the war never technically ended. It never officially began, nor it ended. It's an armistice right now. Indeed. Was crucial to not only training and operating with the South Korean military, but also deterring nuclear escalation. After 1 year in Korea, Robert returned home on January 6, 1958. He remained in the Air Force for another 2 years, being honorably discharged as an airman second class.
That's correct.
Robert reached out to my office in January of 2020 for assistance in obtaining his medals, and here we are more than 2 years later with the medals in hand. The pandemic shut down all federal agencies for a time being, from the National Personnel Record Center to the Air Force, the Air Force Record Center that we needed to get us to this point. But Robert was persistent, and my team was going to do everything we could to get him the medals that he earned. And so I could not be prouder to present these medals to Robert. We have the Korea Defense Service Medal, as well as the Air Force Good Conduct Medal. And so, Robert, thank you for your service. Thank you for your example of leadership. Thank you for being an integral part of this country and this community. And I am proud to give you these medals that you so justly deserve. And just thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Congressman.
So, appreciate it. So we'll do a little grip and grin here. Can we get one? And then now, since I spend too much time all day talking, the floor is yours. If you want to say
can we get
anything.
a copy of that?
Of course, you can have this in a fancy binder and everything.
Thank you very
Perfect.
much. Well, during the conversations of having this medal award, somebody asked it if I wanted to say any words, and then I got to thinking, yes, I would like to say a few words. I'd like to thank Colonel Scott McFarland, who is my neighbor. He's not here today, but in one of my morning walks with my dog, I bumped into the Colonel Scott, and I discussed with him about my service, and I said that I had served in Korea. And I said I had heard a story that there might be a medal for the Korean servicemen. I did not serve in the Korean War, but I was there in 1957, and it was a tough assignment. We got not hazardous duty pay, but we got some extra pay for, living in Quonset huts and whatnot. So it was an inquiry that I passed to Colonel McFarland, and he passed it up to Beth Wartilla. Thank you for that. And from there, I kind of lost it. I'm not sure what Beth and her staff did, but all of a sudden I started getting letters from Congressman Gallagher's office giving me updates, and they passed the request up to the Pentagon, and the passed it to the Air Force, and then they got the pandemic story, and some things were going on in Washington that, you know, paused to stop and look at things, but I was a little persistent, I think, at the time, and I followed up, and Carrie and your DePere office was very helpful, and she did an outstanding job in following up. So periodically, I would get letters giving me indications where they're at, and they hadn't forgot me, but I wanted to recognize Beth, and I wanted to recognize Colonel Scott McFarland, and Dave Brooker, and Carrie in the home office, because they did, like the Marines like to say, a Herculean task in following up on that. So I appreciate the effort, and I just wanted to recognize my family here, my son, my daughter, who is the unofficial mayor of Little Sturgeon, I think, because she has meetings every Friday at her house, and they're all Republicans out there. You can't be bashing any Republicans. And my son, Captain Peter Nelson. Peter served in the Peace Corps for 2 years. Palau, he served in Palau.
Wow.
Came back, got a degree in teaching, taught in Chicago school system for a while.
Awesome.
And then he started a business in Sturgeon Bay called Sail Door County. And he's been in that 25 years, Peter?
23.
23, cool. And then I have my main lady here. I've been with her for 61 years, and she guides me along on what to do, what not to do, and she's been a very supportive partner with me. So I want to thank your office and you in particular for this time that you spent with me and putting up with me. So that's it.
Well, anytime the Marine Corps can give the Air Force some support, we like to do it, you know, because usually we're relying on you for air support, so consider it payback, you know? But sincerely, thank you for your service, and I just love hearing these stories, you know, and we have so many veterans in Northeast Wisconsin with great stories like this. It's a great reminder of how special this country is, so thank you for being part of that. So let's give you a big round of applause.
Okay, thank you.